CAAAV started originally as a committee against anti-Asian violence, and we were organizing around police and hate violence in Asian immigrant and refugee communities. And we knew and realized over time that we couldn't continue to just support individual cases, and we had to address the root causes. Chinatown Tenants Union started over 10 to 15 years ago in response to all the massive amounts of development that were happening in Chinatown. After 9/11, we just seen dramatic changes in Chinatown. We've lost 15,000 affordable housing units. The Asian population has gone down by 20%. And the white population has gone up by 20%. And the amount of construction permits that are being issued shot up by 1,000% in 10 years. And the amount of development that's happening, it has a clear impact on people in the neighborhood.
To me, before I'm here, so it's New York, so people are thinking, everything is like, a very nice, cool place. It's not like a very small cubicles place, and with others not insufficient, like not the facility, like no heat, and then you have to use your own little heat things in every single room, and 9 rooms in the floor.
I was living in Chinatown when I first came to New York in 2001. And I also went to school in Chinatown, high school in Chinatown. Like slowly I saw like all these like bars popping up, and then the boutiques and stuff. And then Chinatown also like galleries, fancy cafes. And then obviously the tenants, like the long time, low income tenants, they were like pushed out.
助客力量，助客力量，我们要什么？要回家。我们要什么？要回家。什么时候要？现在。什么时候要？现在。大家冷不冷？不冷。
黃福哥上嚟嗰時候，叫我哋馬上離開，行李所有嘅物件都唔能夠搬得落嚟。佢唯有對我哋講，只有執得貴重些少嘅嘢。 馬上要離開，天寒地凍，你話咁啊叫我哋離開呢個家園，咁你話去邊度住呢？
我們反對的貴族化，我們如果貴族的話，在的唐人街的話，成立的事情，我們的這些低收入人就很困難，很可能的話，就像了今天那個。 这个住房都一样的，被他赶出去的。
我叫郑志清，是 CAAAV 的成员，住在61号迪拉喜街，也就是我们现在所站在的这个地方。2年前，这2栋楼的住客曾经受到房东的骚扰和驱赶，业役反暴力联盟带领我们跟房东抗争过，使得房东没能将我们赶走。我们面临的不单只是坏房东，这是整个社区的问题。 是贵族化带给我们的压力。
The Chinatown Art Brigade is a women-led artist collective that was co-founded by Betty Yu, Mansi Kong, and myself in 2015 to explore the ways that art and culture can be used to address social issues.
The Chinatown Art Brigade's collaboration with CAAAV, the Chinatown Tenants Union, has been a really unique collaboration. Many of us who are in the Chinatown Art Brigade have really deep roots to Chinatown. We've either done community, labor, or tenant organizing, and have done art and media and cultural related work in Chinatown.
And personally, we were all interested in ways to connect to community organizations who were working around displacement and gentrification in Chinatown.
Our Here to Stay project has really tapped into the imagination of not only tenants, but residents and other activists and young folks who want a way to tell the stories, want a platform to be able to tell the stories.
The Chinatown Art Brigade had been meeting regularly for many months with tenants and artists and residents from the community in the CAAAV offices, to create artwork for the projections.
We went on a placekeeping walk. Myself and Lewis, one of the other collaborators with Chinatown Art Brigade, Mrs. Zhang told us her story about Chinatown, like what all these streets used to look like many years ago back in the 80s. We got to see this old garment factory that she had worked in, which is now being renovated and turned into a gym.
What do you think are the most important places in Chinatown that you think the community really?
I think they should those like people who sell like bowl of bao la, this dim sum place, and that's the main spot like to attract people to come in. I think so. Food usually is one of the favorite for all. Yeah.
This is my apartment. This is my building. Yeah, this is my building. My family's been here for a very long time. We're at 53 Bayard Street, at Elizabeth Street. My mom was born here, so she's lived here since the mid-50s, mid to late 50s. And we're sandwiched nicely between bakeries and the ice cream factory and a lot of restaurants. So this part has been pretty much like they've been holding out as a block in terms of Chinese-owned businesses and like food services for the people that actually live here. I think it's because we're below canal, maybe that has something to do with it. But you can feel things closing in if you go a little further out.
Through the Chinatown Art Brigade and our collaboration with CAAAV, the Chinatown Tenants Union, we have a creative platform, a creative collaboration where everyone is welcome to come together and lift up the stories of those most directly impacted, and not only their stories of resilience, but uplift their stories of resistance, that people are fighting back and they are organizing.
In the August projection, I had one memorable moment where when the teams of people with flyers were trying to flyer, and there were hundreds and hundreds of residents playing mahjong and like in the park, and they weren't really paying us much mind or engaging in conversation with us. But once the projections were projected on the wall, everyone stopped to look up, and it gave us a chance to have conversations with the residents and hand the flyer, and then they would share their story. And I personally was able to do that with some of the residents. And I think as an organizer, it's not the easiest to do outreach and engage in conversations, but the projection helped to stop and create conversations with the residents and the organizers and the volunteer team.
One of the moments that really stood out for me was I think the reflection of the projections onto people's faces as they were looking up. And I remember there was a crowd of people standing in the park looking up at the projections, and there were smiles on their faces. And I really felt at that moment that we had not only succeeded in sharing a message, but that somehow there was this sense of celebration, almost I think a sense of this common purpose that was being shared that was exciting.
I've never really seen anything like this happen in Chinatown before, in terms of using art for activism and seeing it projected in both Chinese and English around the community. So that's really moving to me. I think what I really enjoyed about the projections was it was amazing that I could be a participant and I could just stand there and really feel the all of the emotion and the thoughtfulness that went into the animations and the messages. I don't know, it was kind of an emotional thing for me because I grew up in Chinatown, because my family has been in Chinatown for 5 generations.
It's very important on location-wise, I think, yeah. So, of course, if you do it in a park and then people will just stay there and not going anywhere, and they'll just keep looking. If you have something to attract them, so they will just keep looking.
The one that we had on Grand Street by the park was actually a really good one, because I think because of the crowds, and like when people see that we have so many people like standing there taking pictures, people like they got curious. They were like, oh, what's going on? They stopped and they look at it. It was really good. It was a really good moment.
但是我看到那天晚上就是有很多人我们就是用这种方法，就是因为夏天公园里那个时候都有好多人嘛，他们都可以就是可以看到，让他们可能在他们的脑子里面都有一点印象，都会想起这些事情。
Yeah, so that particular projection location had tons of people there, tons of traffic, people from the community, monolingual Chinese residents who were like, what's going on? There's this big van and like light shining at this wall. And so we had such a great turnout, such great attention. I think it was really nice because we had a couple of interactive moments. We also had the People's Pad where people could contribute their own words to the projection, where we did karaoke, where we rewrote the lyrics to this really well-known Chinese song and sang it out in public. You know, there are folks who weren't even from the community who were just passing by, like getting groceries, and they all seemed really receptive.
think what I also liked was the juxtaposition of that kind of local connection and like the story of real people and how this actually impacts people. Connection to like larger movements, and so like Black Lives Matter, I thought that was a very like kind of eloquent and you know, important thing to connect different struggles. There was like this guy who was like, this is what they're doing in China, like this is the kind of displacement that is happening in China, like some random man, and he was speaking like in Chinese.
We've seen a wide interest among Asian Americans in our project. And I think that's because folks are really acknowledging the housing crisis and the particularly gentrification and how it's really displacing people of color, working class folks, low income folks from their communities. And I think the Asian American community is seeing Chinatown Art Brigade as an opportunity to tap into the creativity, to bring our collective voices together, right? Tenants and residents and young folks who all feel a commitment to Chinatown and to saving Chinatown and making sure it's affordable and making sure that we preserve affordable housing for the longtime tenants.